Hello, my name is Lori Seidenberg. As a member of the RIMS Board of Directors and liaison to the RIMS ERM Committee, it is my honor to present the RIMS 2014 ERM Awards of Distinction. Why are these awards different from all other awards? For one, RIMS wants to recognize the programs that are truly making a difference within their organizations. The judging criteria focuses on evidence that demonstrates 3 items. The first one is the strategic value the program delivers in advancing the organization's missions, the program's scope of engagement in all levels of the organization, and 3, the process consolidation and efficiencies gained through the program. The judging panel invests a significant amount of time reviewing the submissions and coming to its conclusions. The panel continues to be impressed with the complexity and quality of submissions we receive from all over the world. Over the past 3 years, RIMS has recognized a number of organizations with the Awards of Distinction. A few of our prior year winners are in the audience today. We would like you to stand at this time and be recognized for your award-winning programs. Oh, there we go. These organizations are truly setting the bar for excellence in ERM. And now I'd like to introduce this year's honorable mention winner. This year's honorable mention winner is presented to American Agricultural Insurance. Lori, will you please come on stage to receive your award? As a result of its ERM program, American Agricultural was able to reduce uncertainties caused by severe weather by reassessing corporate goals, developing a diversified income and base and growth surplus. Lori, at this time, we would like you to say a few words. Please tell us the one thing that you think has added the greatest value to your organization.
The one thing that's really added value to our organization is we have tremendous management involvement. Leadership in our organization supports the evolution of ERM and is actively engaged in the enterprise risk management process. And we do tie our enterprise risk management process and objectives in with our strategy. The same people that work on our strategy are also risk owners on the enterprise risk management team, and we are involved in the strategic development. Basically for strategy, what enterprise risk management does for us is it helps us to understand and better manage and make decisions about those assumptions that underlie our strategy. So as those things change in the complex environment we work in, we're able to adapt and respond and change and enhance our opportunity for success.
Thank you, Lori, very much. Multiple studies have revealed that strategic risks account for approximately 65% of significant shareholder decline, and that failed mergers and acquisitions account for a big part of those strategic risks with a 70 to 80% failure rate. Our RIMS 2014 ERM Award of Distinction recognizes a company that grasps the strategic connection between risk and reward. This year's award winner demonstrates how it leverages and has grown its ERM program to navigate acquisition exposures and leverage new opportunities. Our 2014 winner is Malaysian-based Astro Overseas Limited. Regrettably, Astro's Vice President of ERM, Mr. Patrick Adam Abdullah, is not able to join us today. Considering the 12-hour time difference, he has asked Ghislaine Dufour to accept the award on his behalf. Mr. Dufour, please join me on stage. this point, I'll turn the program over so he can provide us with more information on Astro's award-winning program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Laurie. First of all, thank you very much to RIMS and the panel of judges on behalf of Astro Overseas Limited and Patrick Abdullah. My name is Ghislain Dufort of Alden Risk Strategies, a Canadian firm advising companies on ERM and risk governance. But today's presentation is not about this. It's really about Astro Overseas and Patrick. Unfortunately, as was mentioned, Patrick could not get up at 1:30 a.m. to address us directly. Actually, I contacted him last night, and he's on a plane to Beijing, so that will not even be an option. But before we go into the presentation, I'd like to talk a little bit about Patrick and the path that led him to this award. We met first, Patrick and I, in 2011 in Kuala Lumpur when we were speakers at the same conference. And Patrick is a senior executive who reports to the CEO of Astro Overseas. And he's based in Malaysia, and Astro Overseas is part of the Astro group of companies, a company that is a media company growing and profitable and listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange. Now, Astro Overseas Limited is the subsidiary or sister company, if you like, that holds the foreign investments of the Astro group around the world. So as Vice President of Enterprise Risk Management of Astro Overseas, Patrick is therefore really at the heart of Astro's international growth. After our first meeting, Patrick and I kept in touch professionally, and in 2013, Betty Simpkins, who many of you know, was professor at Oklahoma State University, contacted me to contribute a case study to the new ERM book she was working on with John Fraser for Wiley. This book contains about 30 case studies, and many of the contributors are actually here in the room. You might be interested to know that John Bugala, Linda Conrad, Grace Cricket, and Larry Warner, who are here, I think, contributed to that book too. When Betty approached me, I didn't hesitate and thought that it would be a great opportunity to do a case study with Patrick on his ERM approach. So he accepted. And I thought that the case should highlight really two major aspects of Patrick's outstanding leadership role in leading Astro's profitable growth abroad together with the other executives. The first aspect is how they succeed in implementing Astro Overseas ERM framework at each acquired company within a 4-month period. That is, I think, quite an achievement. And the second aspect is how he succeeds in tracking risk and return on a quarterly basis and on a portfolio basis for Astro Overseas Limited, helping the board and the management team to make strategic risk-adjusted decisions on their portfolio. Should they keep a company as it is, invest more in it, divest it, and what kind of exit strategy? So the case study has been written, the book is available. If you're interested, it's available through Wiley or Amazon. The title is Implementing Enterprise Risk Management, Case Studies and Best Practices. I think it's a very good book. And after I'd written the case with Patrick, I thought he really deserved, and Astro Overseas deserved, this RIMS Award of Distinction. So I nominated them, and as they say, the rest is history. One last thing I would like to say, that I'm really honored that Patrick trusted me to present this program on his behalf, but keep in mind, I'm not part of the organization. If you have questions, what we suggest is that you write them down. They will be sent to Patrick, who I'm sure will try to answer them as completely as is possible. Also note that these slides will be available, so you don't have to take notes or write them down. So as this slide shows, you see a banner advertising here, USA Fast Forward to Home, just saying that now Astro subscribers can see select US TV shows the same day in Malaysia and everywhere else where the network is available. As I say, you will be able to read this later on in your package, but essentially Astro holds Asia's largest group of integrated entertainment companies. It's enjoying double-digit growth in revenues and profits. At its last financial year end, it had revenues of equivalent in US dollar 4.8 billion, EBITDA of 1.6 billion, and a market cap of 5.4 billion. And their activities include pay television, radio, publications, multimedia, digital media, and content creation and distribution. Just to mention one example of what that means, for instance, they own the largest Chinese film library. Through Astro Overseas, this company is growing abroad, and if we start from their own region, apart from Malaysia, for instance, they have business in Australia, in Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, and China, moving west to India, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and North Africa region, and further west still, the UK and North America. For instance, here in the US, they have a company called PSYOP, which is a world-class creative production business addressing the advertising market. They specialize in integrating live action, visual effects, computer-generated animation with existing and emerging digital technologies to deliver what they call innovative ways to engage, entertain, and communicate with consumers across all platforms for enterprise and entertainment applications. They work a lot with ad agencies, but more and more with companies directly who want to advertise their brands on multiple platforms. Now, the typical ERM process, as I say, is done within 4 months. It's very intense, and the key to doing it, as Patrick says, is to have what he calls jets. And these jets are even faster than the fighter aircraft. They are joint ERM teams, part from Patrick's team at the head office of AOL, Astro Overseas Limited, and part at the acquired company. And these teams perform a process, highlighted here, which takes place in many phases, but in 4 major steps. And they combine an approach from the top down to the bottom up. So they start with the executive team to have a general overview of the team's view of key risks. But then they complement that with a bottom-up approach. They survey about 1/3 of all employees of the companies they acquire through interviews, risk workshops. They come up with a list of prioritized risks that they then confront with the original senior team's list of risks and see where the differences are and really iron out the differences. And this brings a lot of value, not only in the result, but in the process of doing this from the employees to the managers to the senior team to the board of directors. Then once the ERM framework has been implemented within the company, comes the reporting cycle, and this is done on a quarterly basis. So on a quarterly basis, Astro Overseas receives reports from all its subsidiaries that include not only returns, but risk. And this is illustrating the approach by which this is done. There's an ERM monitoring portion that is top-down and a reporting portion that is bottom-up. Patrick is the head in the middle of ERM, reporting to the CEO. And as you see, there's a dotted line to the left to a risk champion. So each subsidiary is headed by a CEO, but also has a risk champion within the team that reports dotted line to Patrick's team. And that's the way that the information flows smoothly to have an overall view of Astro Overseas portfolio of entities. So these risk champions are very important. They discuss risk monthly and report formally quarterly. And there's also a risk committee formed by Astro Overseas on which participate the various subsidiaries, looking at the various risks of those subsidiaries. Now, I think where I was really impressed by their way of looking at risk return, it's as if they are looking at their direct investments in media companies around the world, TV, radio, publications, etc., as a portfolio where you can look at return versus risk. And the way they do that is that they have a performance dashboard where they combine, if you like, ERM risks, which is on the left, with financial risk, which is in the middle, to come up with a ranking, what they call the investment performance score. So they use 4x4 matrices. So each risk have a 1 to 4 impact and a 1 to 4 probability. And they look at always at the top 10 risks of each subsidiary. So each subsidiary can have up to 160 points for risk. The higher the mark, the higher the risk. And they have similarly a system for looking at the variances of the financials. So what was the variance on actual versus budget, cash flows, etc. And they come up with an overall risk rating that can range from 0 to 320. And then they plot that against the investment value. So the risk score that I just mentioned is at the bottom, horizontally, and the investment value is vertical to the left. And they use standard methods like the discounted cash flow method to evaluate their investment's value. So quarterly, they track both movements in terms of value and in terms of risk, which allows them to make strategic decisions as to whether they should keep a company, reinvest in it, or divest it. So a move from the left to the right is an increase in risk. A move to the contrary is a decrease in risk. And likewise, you have movements that reflect either an increase in value or a decrease in value. So the investment performance dashboard really presents a summary of the company and how it is doing relative to its approved strategy when it was first acquired. So I think it's really very interesting. This is an illustration. So when you have your full portfolio, you can follow quarterly the movement of your various subsidiaries. Here they are fictitious but realistic, quarter to quarter. And you can explain each of these movements in a summary that is displayed here that will explain what happened. For instance, this company had a slight increase in risk and a slight increase in value. So they explain in the report why the risk increased. And here in this case, it's because they have doubts about the possibility to renew broadcasting licenses in Indonesia. So it's riskier for this company in the future. It has increased in value because it did better in terms of revenue and profits. However, there's a misoptimization of their cash flow. They have lots of free cash flows, but they don't invest them as much or as best as they could. So that's noted in the report. So the board of directors has a quarterly view of all the investments on this table, investment value versus risk, and they are able in a better position to make strategic decisions on where to go in the future. So I hope I was true to Patrick's program, and I encourage you to write questions. I'm sure he will be glad to answer them. As he says here, he's really honored with this award, and he thanks you very much, and he hopes that sharing what he has done will help you do maybe new things or do things better than what you do at the time, or even challenge his approach. Thank you very much once again to RIMS and the panel of judges. Thank you.
Thank you again for that presentation. We invite you to spend some time with our Innovation Showcase, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.